Hello everyone, today is 20th of September, Friday, so I hope you will have a wonderful day and a great upcoming weekend. Now it's about 10 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late towards the evening on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you want to have access to more news from Russia, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon page or Boosty page for that matter. That will be great support, of course, for this small media project of mine. I just remind you that monthly subscription on Patreon starts from $5 and on Boosty from 500 rubles, which is about $6 a month. That's being said, let's talk about news now. And well, I will start with this report from Largescale News paper. And dear friends, I tried to translate pages, but I failed there. I don't know what to do about it. And at the same time, yesterday in the comment section, I saw many comments of our community who wrote that they like to see in Russian this news also because some members of our community are learning Russian. There are many members of our community from Eastern Europe and Central Europe, from Serbia, for example, and of course languages Russian and Serbian are one family language and they are interested to read in Russian. So I don't know where the optimal compromise is on this matter, but anyways that's been said. This news is about Russian progress in Zaporozhye sector of the front line. Vladimir Rogov, head of We Are With Russia NGO, and recently he became official also, I believe. You know what, let me translate his official title now. Many members of our community are familiar with Vladimir Rogov. Of course, he was regularly reporting, and he is regularly reporting on situation on the front line, especially on the Zaporozhye sector of the front. And he is now chairman of the Public Chamber Commission on the Sovereignty Issues. So yes, I guess this is a state institution, and he is official now. And before this appointment, he was known as the head of NGO We Are With Russia. So Vladimir Rogov is reporting that as a result of local scale offensive operations, Russian troops significantly improved their positions in Malaya Takmachka, Marfapol and Novodanilovka areas of the Zaporozhye front. And let me show you this area, by the way. We are talking about Orekhov direction. And this is Malaya Takmachka, this is Novodanilovka settlement. So Russian troops improving positions in this direction, which may be definitely may be indicator that Russian troops are preparing possibly some sectoral scale offensive operation, maybe even towards Orekhov city itself. Recently, many members of our community probably noticed that Russian troops become significantly active, more active in Zaporozhye sector of the front line, and now rumors are circulating that this activization of the Russian troops, there are two main directions of their thought process among experts. Some are saying that Russian troops are preparing ground for sectoral scale offensive operations, and some are reporting that Russian troops are basically conducting preventive military operations to neutralize more or less significant number of enemy troops that were concentrated in this area, probably to conduct offensive operations towards Energodar city and the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. In any case, what is known for now is that it's Russian troops that are more active, and the initiative is clearly in Russian hands. Although, by the way, these settlements, there are no reports, at least for now, that these settlements, Malaya Takmachka, and Novodanilovka or Marfina are under full Russian control. So Russian troops are just getting closer to these settlements. Maybe towards end of next week or week after, we will see beginning of the battles for these settlements that are located up front of Orekhov city. It is clearly a possibility. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian Defense Ministry stated about liberation of the Georgievka settlement in a DPR. And this settlement is, of course, on the western side of Marinka settlement. And let me find it. So this is it, by the way. This is a Georgievka settlement. I believe this town, this settlement is under full Russian control for quite a while, but Russian Defense Ministry, being an extremely conservative institution, just now acknowledged Russian progress, significant progress in this direction. And right now, Russian troops are conducting offensive operations in Maximilianovka, and at least 40 to 50% of this settlement, according to some reports, are already under Russian control. And it is very likely that in next week or two, Maximilianovka and Austria will become under full Russian control, and Russian troops will get on outskirts, forward units of Russian troops will establish their forward positions on outskirts of Kurakhova, maybe even inside the Kurakhova settlement itself, which is, of course, at this point plays a major logistical role for the Kyiv regime's forces in southern sectors of the front. Let's continue with some more news. And the TASS news agency is reporting that Pitnashka battalion of the Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Borok in a Kursk salient area, and are now close to encircle significant number of Kyiv regime troops invading Kyiv regime and the NATO. Kyiv regime troops and NATO mercenaries in this direction. Let me show you on the map this area. So this is Kursk salient, and Borok is Borky is this town, by the way. And if you take a look at the map, yes, it is a possibility, undoubtedly, that Russian troops will cut Kyiv regime's formations from Borky towards border, and simultaneously, if Russian troops will further continue, and most likely they will continue offensive operations from Darina to Kubatkina, then definitely 2 or 3 cauldrons will be created in which Kyiv regime forces will be encircled and most likely forced to lay down arms and surrender. Or, I mean, they can try and break through cauldron and run away towards Kyiv-controlled Sumy region. And simultaneously, by the way, more reports are coming in about this disastrous attempt of Kyiv regime to conduct a separate invading operation on the western side of Kursk salient towards Glushkovo. And at this point, Kyiv regime forces, during this failed attempt to somehow slow down Russian counter-terrorist operation in the Kursk salient, Kyiv regime lost several hundred military personnel and dozens of military vehicles. Internet is full of videos, by the way, when entire columns of the Kyiv regime and the armored groups are destroyed in this area and they didn't even achieve anything, by the way, nothing at all. Even Kyiv regime's propaganda outlets are forced to acknowledge that this attempt to slow down Russian progress totally failed. And Kyiv regime's formations are in miserable situation there, and most likely we will see some desertions if Kyiv regime will continue to send more and more troops in this direction. Maybe Zelensky and his associates were dreaming about conducting like lightning speed offensive in this direction. Let's acknowledge, like they did manage to do it during their initial stages of invasion in the Kursk region, when they managed to establish control over the several dozen of settlements in just a couple of days. But Once again, dear friends, you know my take on this situation. I was saying from very beginning that most likely Russian troops will create a trap for Kiev regime in Kursk salient, and that's exactly what has happened. And according to Russian Defense Ministry, Kiev regime already lost like more than 13 or 14,000 military personnel just in the Kursk salient, and there are over 1,000 military different pieces of military equipment. Let's continue, and RIA Novosti is reporting that according to pro-Russian underground or pro-Russian partisans in Ukraine, in Kiev-controlled territory, Russian armed forces conducted long-range precise strikes on the points of concentration of their militants from neo-Nazi Azov formation in Kharkiv. No precise information about casualties among Ukrainian neo-Nazis, but I guess they had some very significant losses. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that, well, data is known now when most likely Vladimir Zelensky will meet with the so-called president of US and the vice president, Biden and Kamala Harris, and this data is 26th of September. Rumors are that Zelensky will probably present to Biden during the meeting his winning plan or something like that, some yet another fantasy of this drug addict basically and illegal so-called president. I mean, he's illegal president of Ukraine, isn't it? So let's see. By the way, I don't really care, and I don't think anybody cares about Zelensky's fantasies and his plans about this and that. But what is important, well, according to some reports in Western media and also in Russian media, during their General Assembly in UN, which will kick off on 24th of September, I believe, Washington, London, Paris, and Brussels, number of major capitals, basically, among NATO member states, may make announcement about authorization of the long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. This is the recent developments. This is the topic that definitely worth to pay attention to, but not the Zelensky, by the way. And of course, formally, NATO leadership is saying that they are discussing authorization to be given to Kyiv to conduct long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory, but Russian side, Russian high-ranking officials, from president to foreign minister to official representative of Russia to US to permanent representative of the Russia in UN, Nebezhnyo, Russian ambassador to US, they all said very clearly and directly that Kyiv regime in no circumstances will be able to conduct long-range strikes with Western weapon systems deep inside Russian territory because it lacks satellite navigation, it lacks military intelligence, basically all the tools that are necessary to conduct these long-range strikes. And therefore, if such an event will take place, Moscow will consider it as a direct attack on Russia from NATO member states, from US and its allies. So that's why this topic is extremely important, obviously, and I personally hope some cool heads, some adequate people will prevail in Biden's administration, in US military or political leadership, if there are some adequate people there, and they will make sure that no such a crazy move will be made by US or its allies, because it is extremely dangerous, obviously. Today is 20th of September, so in next several days we will find out if these reports about intention of Washington and London and some other capitals to make statements about long-range strikes are correct. Interfax is reporting that meanwhile Germany is providing Kyiv regime with additional military aid package in which there will be 22 Leopard 1A5 tanks, 12 PZH 2000 self-propelled artillery systems, 61,155 millimeter artillery shells, and some armored vehicles, trucks, and so on. Very unfortunate. Of course, this military aid package will not change outcome of this proxy war that Western ruling class is waging against Russia. But whenever I see information, and I spoke about it in my yesterday's second update, by the way, on Patreon and Boosty, whenever I see news that Germany is delivering some weapons to Kiev regime, those Nazis and the terrorists there, it's just inevitable that historic memory of the Second World War comes up to mind. I truly don't understand how it is even possible that Berlin is, after so many decades since the Second World War, Berlin still on side of Nazis and the fascists, man. I just don't get it. I just don't get it, man. It's really unfortunate. Seems like lessons of the Second World War has been completely forgotten in many Western countries, including in Germany. Unfortunate. Also, by the way, Interfax is reporting about large-scale airstrikes of Israel against Hezbollah in Lebanon. According to reports, Israeli Air Force attacked about 100 launchers, multi-launch rocket systems, basically, of the Hezbollah. Rumors are that thousands of missiles were destroyed during these strikes, even tens of thousands. Although this report comes from IDF, and I'm not sure if we can take this report from IDF for face value. But strike was definitely large scale, and these strikes came straight after these several waves of pager explosions, radio communication devices explosions in Lebanon that wounded several thousand people and killed at least 12 people. At least that was what I see in last reports that I see I read on this matter. And unfortunately, it is highly likely that we are about to see next phase of escalation in the Middle East. This time between Israel and Lebanon, and Hezbollah stated that Israel crossed all the red lines with these attacks on Lebanon, being the radio communication devices explosions or the increased strikes on Lebanese territory, and Hezbollah is basically promising harsh retaliation. It is unfortunate, by the way, that we are seeing this escalation. Some sources already are reporting, some media outlets are already reporting that yet another Israeli-Lebanese war has already started. According to those channels, I'm not as skeptical as those media outlets, but it is highly likely that that things are about to further escalate between the two. And you know my take. I spoke very regularly on this matter. I believe Western ruling class wants to provoke regional war, and that's why they are in support of Netanyahu's government to provoke a full-scale war with Hezbollah, because they want Iran to get involved one way or another. And if Iran will stay out of that conflict, then they will come up with some other provocation to force Iran basically to get engaged, so that regional war will be provoked. And if you're new to this channel and don't know my take on the situation, I can tell you that, in my personal opinion, Western ruling class wants to provoke regional war in the Middle East to distract navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And task for Western ruling elites are to cut China from energy sources of the Middle East. And 90%, more than 90% of oil and liquefied natural gas from Middle East is passing through Hormuz Strait, by the way. So it is a crucial point when it comes to energy security of not just China but the entire world. So I'm afraid I'm afraid we are, about to, observe a next level of escalation in the Middle East, which is truly unfortunate. Let's see. Maybe some miracle will happen and their sides will de-escalate, but this de-escalation definitely cannot be seen on the horizon right now. RIA Novosti is also reporting about, a U.S. Intention to punish Iran for interference in U.S. Elections. Yet another nonsense, by the way, that intelligence community of US is coming up with, and also propaganda outlets and the deep state in general. And in my opinion, this topic of Iran's involvement or interference in US elections done especially because, by deep state especially to make sure that if Trump is going to be next president, he will not de-escalate with Iran, but exactly opposite will happen. He will further escalate with Iran. He will lead the charge because Western or US deep state is pushing narrative that Iran somehow hacked Trump's camp and transfer information from Trump's camp to Democrats. This is one of the narratives that Western media is pushing, isn't it? And of course, this done in attempt to anger Trump and his inner circle, and to make it easier then, if he's to become an ex-president, to push to influence White House's decisions and basically push Trump towards escalating with Iran too, which is most likely will happen because. Even though relatively recently Trump stated that he don't want to escalate with Iran and he would try to do exactly the opposite, find ways to de-escalate if he is elected as a president. But we all remember, by the way, what kind of people were in Trump's administration during his first presidency. Some extremists, obviously, like Pompeo, like that mustache man. Some crazy guy, I cannot even remember his name now. Some extreme radical, I don't know, man, crazy. He dreams about attacking Iran. He always talks about Iran, and he was a national security advisor for Trump or something, isn't it? Probably you all remember who am I talking about, that like crazy mustache man. And once he was fired, by the way, he became very active critic of Trump. So, we can say that Trump's judging was very poor when it comes to his administration, extremely poor even. And I'm afraid it is high probability that his administration, if he is to become president, will be no any better than previous one. So it is what it is. But in any case, I believe all this narrative, all this propaganda about Iran's involvement is done exactly to influence Trump's camp, because Kamala will sign up for anything anyways, right? So if she is to become president, and no one cares in a deep state, because she probably would not be able to find Iran on the political map. Why would she care? She will sign up for anything. Obviously, she can read on teleprompter, right? Some people will write for her all the necessary words, and then she will read it, and that's it. But with Trump, because of his personality, situation is a bit different. Anyways, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Georgian parliament, by the way, is accusing US of aggression through sanctions that was imposed on a number of Georgian officials, especially from Ministry of Internal Affairs. And this was stated by head of Georgia's parliament, I believe. Yes, head of Georgia's parliament, Shalva Papuashvili. So relationships between Georgia, this former Soviet republic, and the collective West in general, and especially with the US, and the Brussels, by the way, are deteriorating very rapidly, and all because of these constant attempts of the Western ruling class to drag Georgia into conflict with Russia. That's all it is, and unfortunately, there is a high risk that in 2 months' time, it's not even 2 months, by the way, little more than a month's time, on 26th of October, when parliamentary elections will or should take place in Georgia, Western ruling class will do anything and everything with use of all their assets in Georgia to destabilize this republic, conduct a regime change or color revolution, and they're putting power puppets of the Washington that will most likely sacrifice Georgia as a kind of second front against Russia for geopolitical agenda of the West. So Georgia is on a crossroads. Georgia is on a crossroads for sure, and well, I hope leadership of Georgia, society of Georgia will stay strong and will not allow these foreign agents basically in the country to destabilize republic and to sacrifice it basically and its future. Let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that US Navy is publishing its plans about preparations to war with China, by the way. Crazy, isn't it? So let me translate at least this sentence here. So the US Navy's navigation plan is my comprehensive strategic guidance for enhancing the readiness for our fleet, prioritizing increased readiness for a potential conflict with China by 2027, and enhancing the Navy's long-term warfighting advantage, said the Chief of Naval Operations, Lisa Franchetti. Lisa, I mean, I guess it's a female, or I mean, Lisa, Elizabeth. Anyways, this is a Navy official, by the way, Navy official in US, and they are openly discussing war with China, by the way, confrontation with China. How crazy is that? These warmongers, by the way, among Western ruling class and their puppets, they're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop until they are forced to stop, basically. And it is very unfortunate that these individuals only understand language of force. They don't know nothing about diplomacy. They don't know nothing about negotiations, compromises. All they want is total dominance. That's it, and this is not happening, by the way. The world is sick and tired of this Western dominance that was devastating, by the way, for this world, for humanity, and therefore changes are needed, and the emergence of BRICS, emerging multipolar world, is an answer for hopes of humanity, basically. That some alternatives are definitely needed, and as we can see, Western ruling class, Western ruling elites are in agony due to these developments, and they are trying as much as they can to destabilize the world just about everywhere, and by using this principle, divide and conquer, maintain some sort of dominance, at least partial dominance, over their lives of humanity, but I hope they will fail, because I said many times before, I truly believe Western ruling class is an existential threat for humanity. They are disgraceful individuals. I truly believe in that, by the way. They are worst of the worst of humankind. RIA Novosti is reporting that several countries have been named here in Russia among hostile countries towards us that are extremely dependent on Russian commodities, and not surprisingly, by the way, among these countries are US, Finland, Lithuania, and many others. And Russia, by the way, was on first, second, or third place on world markets when it comes to commodity trader in at least 12 positions, including metals, including rare earth materials, and many other things. So despite all these talks, by the way, in the West, that they isolate Russia, they're not gonna trade with Russia, they're gonna do this and that, they still are extremely dependent on Russian commodities. Germany, obviously, by the way. So, and it's not gonna change. It's not gonna change. Western countries from the collective West may not buy directly from Russia any minerals, really, or anything, but they will buy it through third or fourth hands, through third or fourth party, and they will just pay significantly more. That's it. And they will call it that they no longer are buying stuff from Russia. I mean, really, who they are trying to fool? I mean, these really fools, man. These so-called elites in the West, unbelievable. But RIA Novosti is reporting that White House, meanwhile, is promising to further intensify sanctions policies against the Russian energy sector to create additional barriers for Russia to export its oil. Okay, good luck with that. I mean, very same story, by the way. Very same story as the previous news. Even US is buying Russian oil. So what these officials in the White House are talking about? I mean, it's a crazy. And this was stated, by the way, by deputy of their aide. I mean, I have to translate, by the way, this stuff. I mean, US bureaucracy is something special, isn't it? So this statement about additional sanctions on Russian energy sector, oil in particular, was made by Deputy National Secretary Advisor of the US President Dilip Singh. Okay, by the way, you can try, but as in case with the minerals, rare materials, some metals, and then there are many other goods from Russia. World needs Russian oil also. World economy needs Russian oil, and no matter with what sanctions US gonna come up, of course, businesses worldwide will find a way to continue to do business with Russian colleagues, and no sanctions gonna stop flow of Russian oil on the world market. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan stated that when some negotiations about peace in Ukraine between Russia and Moscow and Kyiv will take place, or Moscow and the Western capitals, lifting of the sanctions on Russia will be one of their key points, key topics of the discussions. Okay, we can understand that, but yet again, all these talks, by the way, all these statements about negotiations are a trap. I believe Western ruling class wants to basically create this trap when Russia will get engaged in some talks, unending talks, and meanwhile, very same West will try to reinforce, rearm Kyiv regime for a next stage of military confrontation. Therefore, Moscow has a very right approach, for now at least, when a number of high-ranking Russian officials said that even if some talks will start, Russia is not stopping its military operation, obviously, and Russia will get engaged in talks only if there is guarantees that these talks has some meaning, because Moscow knows perfectly well how Western ruling class may use any pause in the military operations. So therefore, I can see where Turkish Foreign Minister is coming from, but and definitely sanctions have to be lifted, by the way, from Russia, because those sanctions are absolutely illegal, right? And Western ruling class, if they want to become a part of this emerging multipolar world, they have to lift sanctions from all countries. worldwide, beginning from the Cuba and then every other country. Those sanctions are illegal. No one will give US any rights to sanction any country. It's none of US business what other countries are doing. It's just that simple, right? It is what it is. But I know, yet again, we are living in the world in which we are living. This is not a perfect world, isn't it? Not even close. Interfax is reporting that very same person, Hakan Fadan, also spoke about Turkish initiative to join the BRICS, and he basically tried to justify this move from Ankara, and he said that Turkey was waiting to be accepted in the European Union for decades and decades, but this did not happen. Brussels doors were closed for Turkey, or EU doors, and therefore Ankara has no option but to look for alternatives in this world, and BRICS is definitely alternative, which will allow Turkey to further enhance its economy, further develop its economy. It's all, economy plays huge role, obviously, in any decision-making process, if the main role. And well, quite understandable statement, quite understandable position of the Turkey. They would not be accepted ever in the EU. We all know that they are waiting for some 30 or 40 years, isn't it, to become a member of the EU, and they did not. And I spoke about it in my second update yesterday also. I went through some details why Turkey was not accepted, in my opinion, and I guess majority in this world thinks the same. But in any case, I don't think Turkey is any closer to become a member of BRICS than to fly to the moon, because Turkey is a member of NATO. Turkey is a member of collective West in general, and even if now on the current Turkish government, relationships between Moscow and Ankara are not extremely hostile, or not even hostile, it's in working conditions, but still quite a number of times Ankara made some steps to, that were definitely anti-Russian, hostile to Russia, and that's one major point for which Moscow will be reluctant to vote for accepting Turkey into the NATO BRICS. And also, by the way, I don't think any country that is a member of their military alliance should be accepted in the BRICS in general. This should be principle. If you are member of NATO, then you should not be in BRICS, because it is obvious that NATO is a terrorist organization. NATO is not defensive alliance, never was defensive alliance. Initially, it was created, to oppose Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact, but Soviet Union is not existing for the last 30 years, isn't it? Almost. And what is the reason for NATO to exist? And by all the accounts, if you take a look at the activities of the NATO and how many civilians were killed worldwide as a result of NATO interventions, we can clearly see that this is terrorist organization, and all the countries that are members of the NATO are terrorist states, with no exceptions, by the way, like it or not, but it is the truth, and citizens of these countries should be shamed that their countries are killing civilians worldwide and are members of the terrorist organization. It is just what it is. So no NATO member state should be ever accepted into BRICS. This is my position, and if there will be referendum, I will vote against Turkey being accepted in BRICS, for example. And in addition, by the way, also, I forget, man. Of course, Turkish political class has to be, entire political class has to be on the same page, and I'm not sure that Western-controlled opposition, political opposition in Turkey, is on the same page when it comes to cooperation with BRICS than government of Erdogan, current president of Turkey. So, no thanks. Turkey, you can wait for EU another 30-40 years, but I don't see you should be accepted in BRICS until you are a member of the NATO, this terrorist organization, and until you will apologize to Russia and to Syria for what you did against Syria and Russia, and until entire political class in Turkey is on the same page when it comes to BRICS memberships. You know, BRICS cannot accept just about anybody. There is no need for that. There is 30 or 40 countries, 34 countries, if I remember correctly, that want to be accepted in BRICS, right? So Turkey has to wait. We don't need Trojan horses in the BRICS, for sure. RIA Novosti is reporting that Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, and I will end this topic on that. Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, stated that because of the significant activization of the NATO in the Arctic, Moscow will definitely respond on that activization and will respond militarily also. So yes, Arctic, little by little, step by step, but definitely is getting hotter and hotter in political terms, and at some point it may get hotter even in military terms, because well, Arctic is our next frontier when it comes to oil reserves, gas reserves, some other commodities, and despite all the talks about renewable energy and this and that, in reality world is extremely dependent on traditional energy sources, and will be dependent for at least next 100 years, right, until some breakthroughs will happen in physics, and after that, when fusion will be achieved, fusion reactors will become a norm. After that, yes, we might see decline of dependence of the humanity on oil, gas, coal, and the rest of it. But until then, all this talks about wind energy, wave energy, and blah blah blah. I mean, sun. These batteries, it is total nonsense, by the way. Some people just invest heavily in these industries to create these industries and are making good buck on that. That's it, man, really. So yes, and then this information just confirms, by the way, what I'm saying, because the only reason why NATO member states are becoming more and more active in Arctic is oil and gas reserves, right? Yes. And let's hope Antarctica not gonna become a frontier also of their struggle between the countries in this world to have access to some minerals there. And this is it. This is it for now. I mean, no matter how much I try to make update 35 minutes, it's still longer. But hopefully you will find time for this update, and hopefully you will find it interesting, useful, and informative. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, and yes, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends on any of the platforms on the internet that you're actually using, or in a real life. I believe there are many people in this world that want to hear news from Russia, from independent source in Russia. So I try my best to provide news, and If you find my channel interesting, if you think me and my channels deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with donation or by subscribing to my Patreon and the Boosty pages. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Once again, have a nice day and a wonderful upcoming weekend. Take care.